Liz Phair's deeply honest and blunt songwriting approach was a welcome surprise to many when she broke through with her independent debut, Exile in Guyville, in 1993, challenging the status quo as well as her own audience as she continuously reimagined herself and her sound throughout her now nearly 30-year career. Remaining an outspoken feminist, her music's confident rebellion provides a voice for those repressed by societal stigmas and a guide to self-expression and self-empowerment. Her start came when she was just asked by a friend to make some tapes, so she put together some music with the 4-track and sent a friend some tapes who then would ship it all over the states. Eventually would get back to her and start having a bunch of demand for those tapes, and so she'd reach out to Matador Records, and in unconventional fashion they would sign her before they even met her. When revisiting her early albums, it can initially seem like your standard lo-fi indie rock, but when you realize this was the 90s and the openness and frankly the realness of the lyricism was quite a shock to the mainstream, and it also shed a big spotlight on the demand for an honest and vocal woman-led group. I'm not going to give her all the credit. Sure, there were other ladies doing a similar and powerful, influential thing, but I feel that Liz played an important role, and I've also grown quite fond of her artistic attitude. Exile in Guyville is critically acclaimed and has been since its premiere, for good reason too. It's phenomenal. It may even be her best, but that's not how I discovered Liz. Sure, I'd heard her name, and I'd even heard a few of her songs on the radio without even really realizing what her sound or message was about until I stumbled across this. In a secondhand bin, I found her sophomore release through Matador Records in September of 1994. This is Liz Phair's Whip Smart. According to Miss Phair herself, it's a rock fairy tale. It takes the listener from the beginning to the end of a fairly rocky relationship. It's made with the same team that put Exile together, and even uses quite a few songs that Liz wrote before even releasing that project, but it's by no means a reiteration of that debut. Whip Smart is a foundational piece that cements Liz Phair's soft-spoken, low-key, lo-fi 90s indie rock sound, and it's not nearly as brazen or frustrated as before, and while it uses some similar stylings and attitudes, it's far more playful and self-assured. From innocent introductions to uncomfortable conversations and solemn departures, this project highlights her ability to confront emotions with a simultaneously aloof yet understanding lyricism and delivery. She layers her vocals and embraces the fuzziness of a lower fidelity recording, and it makes her sound really surprisingly full for how sparse some of the arrangements are sometimes. She adds on to that with just a big range of emotions that makes for a very interesting album that doesn't over-engage its listener if they're just looking for some pleasant alternative rock that has continued to age quite well. If you know Liz or Whip Smart, I'd love to know your thoughts on how it holds up over 25 years later. I'm sure stoked to own it, and I'm gonna take a few minutes now here and break down this fairy tale that she's presented us with here. Starting with the awkward and uncomfortable opening, the will he, will she place that a lot of relationships simmer in before they get going. It's the opening track, Chopsticks. This track's built around the very first song that kids learn to play on the piano after hot cross buns, and the innocence of Chopsticks is reflected and harshly contrasted in the lyrics here, with the very first verse alluding to having sex, but ultimately this track ends up in that unsure, uncomfortable, innocuous place that you end up in when you're getting to know a crush. The lead single in Grammy-nominated Supernova rocks along pretty well and is a fun representation of the feeling you have when you're enthralled with someone new and can really only see their positive attributes. As it is for most relationships, the honeymoon period is the peak of excitement, and that is reflected in the track list here with a ton of these uplifting, energetic numbers in the front half. You've got the self-assured support system reminding me of a more positive Courtney Barnett cut, and that one's followed up by a little more tongue-in-cheek alt-rocker that reminds me quite a bit of Garbage. It's called X-Ray Man. Worry is another one of those emotions that's strongly connected with falling in love with someone, and in this case the track Shane feels like that sobering realization. It's an anti-war love song about the fear of being drafted, ripped out of your life, and thrown onto a battlefield. The low-key, shoegazy atmosphere from those early girly sound recordings provides a great palette for the mood here. Nashville is another self-assured, moody cut with excellent writing that gives this track at least duplicitous meanings. The one being the context of the album, saying this is the point of acceptance where you see your partner without a mask on and you just kind of love them for who they are. And in the context of her life, it feels almost like a response to the reaction of her debut and the expectations around that, and her stating that she refuses to decorate her love and she's going to do the thing that she wants to do and not the thing that other people want her to do. You start road tripping towards and through the midpoint of this album. You get another track from her girly sound days called Go West, and then you cruise right on through the track Cinco de Mayo until you get a little bit of conflict at the once scenic pit stop titled Dogs of LA. That little road trip in the middle ends at the title track Whip Smart. This one's about a different kind of journey. It's the adventure of raising a son and the challenges that lie therein. Liz would go to extremes to teach him about the ways of the world and what it would be like to be a woman in that world. This track's chorus is as irresistible as this track is interesting. Great title track. Keep it up, Liz. Jealousy comes in here feeling like a kind of dark counterpart to the track Shane. It expresses almost the totally opposite sentiments and has a totally different kind of delivery, where Shane takes its time, is slow, kind of longing. This track comes in like an irrational whirlwind, jealously ripping up that soft veil of love that's been draped over the majority of this project. Seeming to be the harbinger of doom for this partnership, Crater Lake is then the explosive frustration that boils over due to the isolation that might have been caused by that jealousy. A pair of slower, reflective songs close out this tale. First you have Alice Springs, which sees Liz revisit that feeling of isolation while being put on a pedestal by her peers. Then to finish it all off, you get May Queen, which is just a daydreamy love song that would fit in with really any contemporary bedroom indie pop project. She takes you on a ride that's tough to get off of. Whip Smart is an intimate journey through mistakes and discovering one's identity that I think really connected with its younger audience and continues to express a lot of the difficulties many relationships face. Liz stays true to herself, progresses her sound, and provides a voice for those repressed rebels out there. This CD stands on its own merits and is only fortified by her other Matador releases, so be sure not to miss out on those if you enjoy this. Her frank and moody early work is what drew me to Liz Phair, but it's her attitude around music and her willingness to adapt and reimagine herself that has ultimately won me over. I was quite surprised the first time I listened to her early 2000s pure pop project, and I may not connect with it as deeply, but it sure accomplished what she set out to accomplish with it having some pop bangers that you can just blast on the radio. I still think that's a fairly respectable pop album, but it unfortunately alienated a lot of her fans, and when she wanted to once again make a change of her sound, after the disappointing follow-up to that album, Somebody's Miracle, it ended up alienating her labels as well and forced her sixth album to be released independently. The creative and, I guess, headstrong Fun Style would be released all on her own in 2010. It's definitely not her best, but it's still fun and it's worth a try if you really like Liz. It wouldn't be until earlier this year that we'd get another full-length Liz Phair studio album. This past summer she released Soberish, and it's probably the closest thing we're gonna get to a return to Guyville, with Brad Wood coming back, collaborating and producing that project, providing some similar tones and sounds from these early Matador releases, but this album is still adamantly different, with a much more mature and political edge to it. She was slated to open up for Garbage and Alanis Morissette on their current tour, but she unfortunately had to pull out due to some unforeseen circumstances, was replaced by Cat Power, but hopefully she'll still maybe do some shows in the new year. I'm not going to keep my fingers crossed, but I'd like to hear from you if you've ever seen her live, or if you have any opinion on Whip Smart and this indie pop icon. Let me know in the comments down below. Leave a like if you made it this far in the video. Consider subscribing for a weekly dose of throwback music retrospective madness. Here's a couple that I've done. I already talked about Garbage over here, and maybe YouTube will suggest another exceptional 90s artist for you to check out. Thanks so much for watching, guys. I'll see you next time. When they do the double dutch, that's them dancing. When they do the double dutch, that's them dancing. You're whip smart.